Let's dig into three things, and there's actually more than three, but we're just going to do three right now. Three things that estranged parents blame their estrangement on. Starting with number one, drum roll, the internet. Why? Because on the internet, we are talking about our own estrangements as adult children, and we're sharing our experiences. There are professionals in the field who are sharing the markers of a toxic parent, an immature parent, emotionally immature parent, narcissism, all of those different things. And because we're talking about it so much, the estranged parents have decided that their adult children are being talked into it. So that's number one. Number two, self-help books. Books like Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. Books written to teach us how to have boundaries and talking about family dynamics. And so apparently, because we read those books, which by the way, didn't actually necessarily encourage estrangement. Many of these books, there have been a lot of books written, and these books started to come on the market somewhere in the late 80s. Self-help books weren't really a thing for a long time at that point. Psychotherapy wasn't something that was normalized at the time. I mean, people would call a psychologist a shrink, and there was a connotation attached that there was something wrong with you if you went. Like, it was very heavily stigmatized. Books about parenting didn't begin until getting popular until Dr. Spock, which was in, I think, the 40s was when he first came out with his first book. So of course there weren't materials back then, just like there wasn't the internet back then, there weren't materials. And then in the late 70s, 80s, very late 80s, which is where there was more of an upswing, there were books about boundaries and family dynamics and romantic relationships and what healthy love looks like, and all of these kinds of materials coming out, along with, guess what? Manuals on how to be a parent. You know how they always say there's no manual? There were a ton of books out on the market about, parenting. How do I know that? Because I read everything I could get my hands on in order to avoid what my mother did to me, because I was terrified I would be her as I was having children. And because of that, I actually didn't really read a whole lot of these estrangement books, because guess what? Drum roll, I was already estranged. But apparently when you read some books about how to be healthier and boundaries and family dynamics and emotionally immature parents, the message you're getting is you should just go no contact, according to these estranged parents. No. Number three, can you guess what it is? Pause the video and put what you think. Ready? Therapist. And they make it sound really official as well. One of them says, the therapist industrial complex is causing and encouraging estrangement. She's also the one who interchangeably refers to emotional abuse as drama. Although now she's kind of leaning towards calling emotional abuse abuse. Not quite good enough for estrangement by itself, because it's not extreme enough. And if you know who I'm talking about. I purposely don't put those people, she's those people, because I really don't have any time for her. She has such a lack of empathy and is downright at times cruel to people in her videos that I really have no time for her. But there's another one out there who's talking about it in the same way, and they make it sound very, very official. And they're actually saying that it is a grand plan to take over the minds of the youth and that sort of thing. Well, I'm 59, so go ahead and call me youth, because I've been estranged for over 30 years. They blame the therapist because when their adult children go into therapy and start to gain self-confidence and a voice, they begin to change their behaviors. And so they see that as being our fault. And as these survivors of trauma and dysfunction are growing in the knowledge that it wasn't them, it wasn't their fault, they were innocent children, they start to want to hold their parent accountable, or at least get some sort of apology and have hard conversations, which all these, well, a lot of these estranged parents say never happened, but maybe it didn't happen the way that they wanted it packaged. But these children, and regardless of how it happened, a lot of these adult children now began to push back. They have boundaries. They're not accepting certain behaviors. They're beginning to change their behaviors in relationships to those parents by gray rocking, as we call it. I call it playing possum, by not engaging in the things that those parents used to have so much power over in the past. And as the parents lose power and the dynamic changes, they double down because they're desperate for control. And inevitably, guess what? It ends up in no contact. And as all this unfolds, the parent decides, well, you changed, it's your fault, and it's because therapy told you to do it. No, ma'am. No, sir. It's not because therapy told them to do it. I don't know one therapist who's ever told somebody to go no contact, including the one that I had. And that was under circumstances around the I'm going to put it that way so I don't get flagged in this video, that was being perpetrated by my grandfather. My grandmother wasn't even recognized in that yet. And not even she, not even her, did she tell me to go no contact. I did. I made that decision. I'm not saying that there are no therapists out there that, encourage estrangement. I'm never going to say that because I don't know every single therapist on the planet. And like any profession, we're all human beings. I will say the ones that I know personally, the ones that I even follow and I look at their content and things like that, they seem to do things the way that I do them. How do you want to manage this relationship? What do you want it to look like? Do you want to maybe take a little space and figure it out? Or do you not? I've told clients who are estranged, when they're worried about their parent, when they're having feelings of guilt, you can step back in and see what's going on. You're in a different place now if you want. And they're the ones who go, nah, I'm pretty sure I'm better off over here. I don't discourage them. I actually encourage them in trying for repair if it's at all possible. And if it's not possible, I still encourage them to maybe reach out and see how they feel about it, because they have support if it goes sideways, which it's probably going to. I think that's my responsibility, to make it known to them that they have choices out of very little options. If you know, you know, right? I don't do that with every client, by the way. Like if there has been something that I know for sure it's an absolutely horrible idea. I mean, I've got parents who stalk. I've got ones who are, recently assaulted their adult child, things like that. So it's on a case-by-case basis. But my point being, I'm not sitting on one side of the fence or the other just because of my own experiences. And as a therapist, I much rather see these relationships repaired. And as a motherless daughter, I rather see somebody have their parent, if it's at all possible. So anyway, those are the three things. I know that there's more. Drop a comment, tell me which ones they are, and I'll make a video about it. Thank you so much for being here.